right, good to see everybody. Obviously, this is an important bye week for us. Coming off a really, really tough outing on Saturday. The disappointment, the challenges of that. I love how our players showed up, for our meetings today. And for the lift, we definitely have work to do. We're going to practice this week. We are going to make corrections. We are going to go to work on what we saw in that game that wasn't executed right, and continue to find ways to build skill and improve our football team. Like I said on Saturday night, I also give credit to the UCF staff. They did a good job, and their team played better than we did on Saturday. So now we're moving forward. I'm excited to see what a Friday night in Arizona Stadium looks like, from our fans and our students. Friday night games always have great energy, always have good crowds, and just the excitement of it, being kind of on a non-traditional day. So I'm excited to see what that looks like here. And we've got a team that's coming to play here that's extremely well coached in Houston, and they have a bye also, so they'll be fresh, and it looks like they're playing good football. So another challenge for us, but I'm glad that we're playing at home, and I'm excited to get to work on playing well and doing things we need to do, give our team a chance to win.
We'll start with Justin. What goes into the thought process of not playing Noah under center as much as maybe he did last year?
I think some of that is, just getting him away from the line of scrimmage, from the big bodies, so he can see a little bit better sometimes. And that part of it, I think, he's comfortable there, and I think, and I think some of the challenges we have with the offensive front have made some of that, not as clean as it was a year ago.
Jenna in the back.
Is there stuff you're looking to replicate from the first bye week where you guys, you went back to the basics and then had success against Utah? Like, what are some of the things that maybe you've taken and replicate from that first bye week to now, and maybe things that you're doing differently too?
Yeah, I think, for our football team, I think it's critical that we attack practice and meetings and like we did over our first bye week. I think that was really, really good. I think we spaced out the days off so that our team had a chance to recover a little bit, but really just keeping our foot on the gas pedal on the improvement of our football team. And then I didn't mention in my opening statement, but also a critical piece of this bye week is our coaches are going all over the country recruiting. And we got to go find the next great Wildcat and do everything we can to make sure that we keep our recruiting class intact, and then also find the pieces that we know will make us better in the future.
Michael?
The most glaring aspect of the game this last Saturday was the line of scrimmage, the rushing differential. I'm sure you know what those numbers are when you looked at the film. What did you see, and what is your message to those guys about not letting that happen again?
Yeah, that's been a huge conversation, obviously, Saturday night and yesterday, and still ongoing today. I think that, on the offensive side of the ball, finding things that we can execute at a high level, that we can execute in our sleep, where, we can play with the proper physicality and give us a chance to move people and run the football effectively, which we obviously didn't do on Saturday. That part of it is, how can we game plan that better? How can we put our players in better positions? And then also accelerate the growth and the improvement of the new players that are playing in our offensive line. As we looked at the film, we felt like our defensive line played well in that game. We missed tackles on the perimeter. So like when those things got out, right, the tackles that we missed on the perimeter. So with the bye week, it's going to give us a chance to return to some of the fundamental work that is hard to do 10 weeks into the season. Just blocking, tackling, a little more individual, a little less scheme. We're going to get a jump on the Houston game plan, right? But we have to, also attack some of the fundamentals that didn't show up on Saturday.
When it comes to recruiting, I'm sure that there are conversations that still go on with players that you have gotten commitments from. What are they saying? Like, are they asking questions about what does this mean, that the way this season is going compared to expectations? Are you hearing any doubt from them about the future?
So far we're not, but that's ongoing, right? That's an ongoing conversation. And I think recruiting is about relationships and trust. And those kids that have committed to us chose to do so because they believed in us and trusted us. And we got to continue to, ensure and help them be able to see that when you come here, you are going to get developed at a really high level. You are going to be a part of great football teams. You are going to be a part of a great college football experience.
Is there a way to use the struggles of a season like this to be like, this is why we need you kind of thing?
Of course. I think, like every player that you recruit, it doesn't matter what position, every player that you recruit thinks they're going to walk in the door and start, right? And so if they can look at some of the struggles and they can say, hey, I think I can have a positive impact on that football team, I think that has a chance to help.
Justin? So how do you just keep this season in perspective? Because like Dalton and Noah, they talk about, yeah, it's disappointing, but we're trying to keep everything together. So how do you just look at just the season as a whole and really what's next for you guys?
Well, I think the most important thing is that the players, the coaches, is that we stay together and we move forward together. I think that's one of those things that gets hard to do after you lose games, and the outside world tries to pull them apart, But these players care about each other. They care about their coaches. I think like that part of it is like how much can we lean on each other, right? Lean on each other and find a way to move forward together. And then the program, and especially from my chair, is in a constant process of evaluation. That's an everyday thing for me, evaluating absolute every part of the program. And we're going to continue to do that as we go.
Left side, third row.
So, despite some of these losses, what are some positive takeaways you've had from the past game this weekend?
I think the team continues to play hard, and I think that shows up, and I think that speaks to how committed they are to each other, even with the disappointing outcomes. And I think that's a positive. I think how they show up to practice, our practice environment continues to be intense and physical and just high speed and like that. So that part of it I think is really good. And then I think there are players that are playing that we're maybe not thinking they were going to play at the start of the year. And so we're developing a portion of our football team that maybe would not have gotten that opportunity. And I think there's value in that also.
Michael, two more questions for you about the game. The first was the Hail Mary. When you looked at it on film, what did you see? What are some of the teaching points from that?
Yeah, I think we can play that better. I think did Bobo get pushed in the back? You asked me that on Saturday night, right? That looks a little funny. But I think those things are a mosh pit. There's never going to be any calls on that. You know what I mean? So we need to be boxed out on that, and making sure that not playing behind that, but playing in front of it and literally, getting our backside on people and boxing them out. That's going to be a collision play. We need to not try and play that ball with two hands, or with two hands, it's got to be knocked down. I mean, it's the hardest part about that play is that you can't rep that play in practice because you're going to take 6 players and have them all leave their feet in a 3-yard box, and you try to avoid situations like that in practice because you don't want people spraining ankles or getting caught up.
There were a couple guys who were kind of on the other side of the field. Were they where they were supposed to be?
Yeah, they were just late getting to because the quarterback flushed, right, and then came back. Yeah.
And the other question was, kind of had gotten the penalty situation under control, and then it kind of resurfaced this past week. Do you think a lot of that was just frustration on the part of the players? And if so,
Yeah, I think in terms of the penalties, I'm always concerned. The biggest issue for me is the penalties that I think are in our control, like the pre-snap procedure, lining. We lined up offside one time, those things. Those ones are the ones that absolutely drive me freaking nuts. Is when we do that, or it was false starts, that stuff is unacceptable. You know what I mean? The holding, or sometimes those football plays happen, right? Our technique can be better. I think one on Gavin on the kickoff return, he kind of gets run over and takes a guy to the ground, and he just needs to power step into that and strike and so that he can take some of that vertical speed off of that guy coming down the field. And then if he does get run over, he can't latch on and pull him to the ground, So there's some of those things are technique things that can be better.
So over the last several weeks, you mentioned how, you know, maybe you guys can be coaching these guys better. What is not working with the coaching that maybe makes you say that after losses?
Well, I think whenever we don't play well, right, or we don't execute at the level that we're capable of executing, that always falls on me. That's always on me. And so, you know, that's where I start, and that's where the constant evaluation every day, practice, film, games, post-game, all that stuff is a constant evaluation of what we're doing in all three phases. And so that's what these conversations are ongoing for us. You know, like, hey, why did we do this? Why did we have this guy block this thing this way? You know what I mean? And just continuing to dive down like into the deep details to try and figure out why we're not executing at a higher level.
Michael, you had a lot of success at San Jose State, especially the second half of your tenure there. But you entered into a different set of circumstances here, for sure. What have you learned over the last 9 months about this particular school and situation that maybe you can take those lessons and help to turn the tide, short term and long term?
Well, I think there's, you know, I think college football is rapidly changing, right? Just the world that we're in is rapidly changing. I think we're in a great spot with our athletics director in terms of where we're going with revenue share in ways that are absolutely going to give us a chance to have the caliber of talent and the kind of football teams we want to have here. I'm excited about that. And we're building a program. And that part of it is always, it's hard when you come in with the expectation because everybody's like, the program's already built, right? But there's also pieces there from a year ago that weren't part of us this year, right? And so we're still we are still actively developing those other parts to try and get them up to the level of the Big 12 Conference. And that's an ongoing thing. And some of that is the decisions that we make as coaches and the situations we put our players in. And then some of that is continuing to upgrade the talent on our football team. That's why we recruit. Like, everybody in America is always in a constant race to continue to elevate the talent on their football team, because by position, the more high caliber players you have at a position, the more it increases competition on the daily level at that position. And you want all of those players to feel that pressure in the practice environment so that game day is relatively easy. You want them to be on razor's edge on Monday through Thursday in the practice environment so that when they do have to line it up, they can just cut it loose, knowing that they're ultimately prepared for what's coming Saturday afternoon or Saturday night.
Justin?
So obviously you can't talk about specific recruits, but when you look at the 25 class as a whole, what do you like about it?
I think we're moving in the right direction. I think we still have some pieces to add to it. I think the fluid nature of college football right now, everybody is trying to figure out because there's so many unknowns. I don't know who's going to walk into my office, you know, someday and be like, hey, I'm going to hit the portal. You know what I mean? You don't know that. So everything is based on a you know, your best guess, right? Like kind of an educated projection of what you think the roster is going to look like. But then there's also going to be surprises there. So you have to have contingency plans upon contingency plans so that you can make sure that you continue to build the program the right way so that you have the proper depth, the proper talent, the proper size, speed, everything at every position. And so that's just a constant evaluation, and we are working at that. The recruiting effort has been awesome here. I love where we're at. I think we have great recruiters on our staff, and I think we have a great plan for how we're going to build it with what I mentioned earlier with Desiree and the rev share plan. Like, I'm excited about where we're going.
And then this week being election week, what's maybe the message to the players and what's kind of the plan around that, if you have it?
The biggest thing for the players is, like, I just encourage them to vote. That's kind of been one of those things. I don't weigh in on either side of the coin. That's not my job. But I do think as young people, it's important for them to understand how fortunate they are to have the opportunity for that. And if there's somebody that likes to complain about where we're at or what's happening in our world, then they should let their voice be heard by showing up to the polls.
Brian? That's my opinion too on that, so I don't agree with that. The previous bye week, you used that opportunity to make a change with the play caller. Was there any consideration of doing any other staff changes at this point in the season on the bye, considering the timing and the losing streak? There's not for me. I don't think that serves us. I don't think it serves this team right now. I think the most important thing that we're trying to do is to keep this team together and keep us move forward and build the best plan we can to play good football against Houston. And I also think that every person in this building is really having a big impact on our recruiting process, and that part of it is ongoing. But there's a constant evaluation of where we're at
in terms of how we're coaching, how we're teaching. Every aspect of the program is evaluated on a daily basis by me.
Troy, kind of getting back to Justin's question about the 25 class, just the feedback that you've gotten throughout the season and this point in time from the class despite the losing streak, what has been the feedback about yourself and the coaching staff and the program as a whole?
I think they feel good about the people that are here, and I think people make a place special, and that part of it, I think our players, I think how connected the team is, I think our coaching staff and how connected we are and how well we get along and how we recruit as a team, not just as an individual, right? Like you're just not recruiting this kid at this school. I think the players feel that, and I think in recruiting, when players, because everybody has some version of the same thing, right? Like they got a football building or they got an indoor or whatever. I think the kind of the X factor in that is going to be, how does it feel when you're there? Does it feel like home? Is it a place that you could see yourself being for the next 4 or 5 years? And so far, those players have felt great about that.
Last question to Michael. Desiree was on the trip, of course. I'm sure she goes to all the road football games. I'm sure you guys have talked a lot about the direction the football program is headed. What have those conversations been like?
They've been positive because she's super committed to us building a championship football program here. And I really, really appreciate that about her. And I think as we're talking about like building out our plan and our process for revenue sharing and what that looks like and just how that plays out over time, she's aggressive, she's really smart, and she's really committed. And I can't ask for anything more from a person in that seat than what I'm getting from her.
All right, that's our time.
Thank you all.